Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unapologetic Conversations. We're right smack in the middle of winter, and the weather is becoming colder as we are preparing for the holidays. But today we've got a fantastic guest for you. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about communication, okay? And our guest, she is a certified DISC human behaviorist. I'm going to ask her about that later because I want to try to understand what that means. She's also a John Maxwell certified speaker, business and life strategist. She's a writer and a published author. She is an equestrian, so she loves horses. And maybe we'll be talking a little bit about that. And the thing that's interesting, she is a neurology and brain geek. I'm curious about what that means. Okay, so without further ado, let's give a warm, unapologetic welcome to our guest for today, my good friend, Kellie Westover. Hi, Kellie.
Hi, thank you so much. That was wonderful.
So thank you very much for joining us in our Unapologetic Conversations today.
Well, I love this. I'm excited. I love what you do.
Okay, so let's go jump into our little chit chat. When I first met you, the one thing that I met you through is through this process, this test that you gave me, which is called the DISC test, right? And it says in your resume that you are a DISC human behaviorist. What does that mean?
It sounds really cool, doesn't it?
Sounds cool, right?
And very, she's got this nailed. Well, so a human behaviorist is someone who studies the patterns of human behavior. So what we've done is the assessment that you took, and we call it assessment because it's really not a test because there's no right or wrong answers because we are all unique individuals and we have our own ways to communicate and we have our own ways to process thoughts. And so what it does is it takes a broad spectrum and it aligns your answers with where you fall into a communication process. And so as a behaviorist, I've studied that to learn the different behavioral styles. There's 42.
Okay.
Communication styles, and gotten and been through the training so that I am okay to teach it. Pretty much is what it means.
Okay, well, for all of you guys who are watching right now, so we have some viewers right now, feel free to as well to ask questions from Kellie. Make sure that when you do ask a question on Facebook, make sure that you give StreamYard authorization to see your name so that we know who's asking that question, okay? So Kellie, let's talk a little bit about communication or miscommunication for that matter. You know, I'm sure a lot of our viewers out there can resonate with this particular experience, right? And if you resonate with this experience and you're watching right now, type in your favorite emoji. But have you ever had this moment when you had this message which was so clear in your mind, right? You knew exactly how clear that idea was, but when you communicated it, there was a little bit of lost in translation that occurred. There was a lost in translation moment, and it wound up with a case of misunderstanding, or even worse, it wound up with a conflict. So why does it happen? Why does it happen more frequently than we would like?
Well, that's a great question, and it does happen more frequently. We all hear through our own lens of how our communication style. So if you are you're an inspirational person, so you're a high I, what we call a high I, and you engage people, you care about people, you're bright, you're fun, you're effervescent. Well, for someone who is what's called a C, and they're very calculated and cautious and stuff, they're like, that person is sorry about that, my phone was going off. So that is someone's going, okay, think of a CPA. And so when we try to relate with our vibrant energy and we're all this, and this CPA, so they're going, they're thinking, okay, how does it apply to me? How can I do this systematically? Well, as an inspirational person, we don't think systematically, correct? We're just like, well, overall big picture. So when we try to communicate that, if we don't understand how they receive the information, we're like two ships passing in the night and we miss each other. So the cool thing about learning DISC and learning who you're communicating with, especially in your immediate family or in your work setting, is that you know how to say something in a way that they can understand exactly how to receive the information, which is beautiful because we can adjust. We have our innate characteristics of who we are, but we can adjust how we speak to someone. Because I can get very vibrant and very alive, and I can also be like, listen, we got to get this stuff done. And then you can be soft and supportive and be like, I understand. I understand that you're having a hard time with this, and let me see if I can explain it better to you. Or I can go like, I can be C, which is like, so listen, we're going to do this step by step. There's a system. You're going to dot your I's and cross your T's, and everything's going to fall into line. And everyone hears that differently.
Uh-huh. So what's interesting for me in the statement that you just mentioned is that far too often we think about how we craft the message in our brain, how we want to communicate it, but we don't go out of our way to try to understand how the other party is equipped to receive the information. Is that accurate?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Very well put. It's interesting when you think about it. When let's say we're in line at a coffee shop and we're waiting to get a coffee, and we're talking, and and someone else is vibrant, like we're vibrant, or we're direct and we're thinking in business. The people in business are generally on their phones, like they're you can see them, and you can perceive that very quickly. But someone who might be quiet might just be out of their element, so they're portraying a different person, different communication style, because they're out of where they are. But the minute you talk to them, if you just smile at them, you'll see them like, oh, hey, how's it going? Like, what's going on with you? And you see that, and then you can learn to communicate in that style. So I think of it in terms of being the green M&M in a bag full of yellows.
Okay, or a Skittle in a bag of M&Ms.
Yeah, because you were like, Skittles, like, whoa, they're all this bright and fun. And you think about all the ads they have for Skittles, and you put that. Well, I mean, and M&Ms are bright and fun also, but you take them, and they change that M&M, that peanut M&M, and he gets kind of serious sometimes, and you're trying to mix them to communicate, and they're not going to hear it the same way. So it's really a cool concept, especially in families, to be able to develop and learn about your child's communication style. Because we've all had kids that are like, you're trying to communicate with them, and they're like, you're doing this. Because you may be like, I want this done, I want this done, I want this done. And they may hear like, I'm not good enough. Oh my gosh, I can't complete this. This is overwhelming. And that's where, if you're learning those communication styles, you can go, hey, you can lower your vibration and your communication to what they can understand. So you can be like, hey guys, we're gonna do this together. Some kids need to do things together. Some people at work need to do things together. Other people just want to be given a list and they want to be let go and like go do their stuff. Don't micromanage me. Trust me to get it done. I'll get it done. The C's are going to come back to you and go, hey, can you check on this? Can you make sure I'm doing this? And our beautiful Jenny, who we adore and love, is a beautiful S, and she wants to support and keep the environment good, and she wants to make everything happen and everyone happy and even flowing. So it's very helpful to know who you're communicating with, especially if you're on a mission like you are.
So if you are new at this, because I can imagine a lot of the people who are watching our video right now, they do want to learn how to become better communicators, right?
Yeah.
If you are new in this, what would be an easy first step for people to get started in this journey of assessing how another party would receive information? Because like this, when you first told me this a couple of weeks ago, that was like mind-blowing for me, and I'd like to be able to share that knowledge with other people as well. So what would be an easy tip that can, you can help guide somebody how to determine or assess what is the communication style of the other person, the receiving communication style?
That's awesome. So there's a really quick thing we can do, and I'll just do it here, and it's very easy. When you think about yourself, and you can also do this with anybody else that you're around, but determine, are you outgoing or reserved? Are you more likely to speak to people in a coffee shop line, or are you more likely to sit back and just smile, not be mean, but just be quiet? So are you outgoing or reserved? And right there, you just split people 50%, right down, pretty much right down. You're going to split them in half, okay? Because we have 4 quadrants. So there's the D, the I, the S, and the C. And so the 2 sides are the upper echelon, the D and the I, are outgoing, and the S and the C are reserved. So if
Oh.
you think about, okay, so am I outgoing or reserved? And I'll let you guess what I am in a little bit. So outgoing or reserved. And the second thing is, am I task oriented or people oriented? Now, guys, keep in mind, this is not a right or wrong answer. Everybody has a little bit of everything in them, and everybody is beautiful and perfect the way you are. There's no right or wrong answer. Just because you may be more task oriented, which means you focus on getting shit done. Like, let's get this boom, boom, boom. I got my list. I'm going to knock it out. That doesn't mean you're not outgoing, and it doesn't mean you don't care about people. It just means that when it comes down to it, you're going to see, you're going to focus more on getting stuff done, and then you're not as emotionally driven. So the people oriented are more emotionally driven because they're tied to the person that's involved in it. They're tied to the outcome of the person. So how it affects everybody. So if you divide those up, you're going to get a pretty good idea. So generally speaking, if you say I'm outgoing and task oriented, I'm going to be a D. That person, let me think if I can think. So a very interesting example is Donald Trump. He's a high D, and we all know him because, I mean, he's very much in the main stage right now in the world. He's a very high D. He's very driven. He's very direct. There's very little emotion going on there. Not that he's not emotion, and not that he doesn't care. It's just how he portrays himself and communicates is a very direct, driven, determined style of communication, right? So we can all relate to that. So when you think of a high I, you're a high I. You are very inspirational. You're very outgoing, and you're very people-oriented. So you want to help people. You want to be there. You want to inspire them to be better. You want to, be the light. I love that. Oh, my wife and I are communicating like Skittles and M&Ms. Oh, we can help that. We can help that. And when you get that, it's so beautiful because what it does for your relationship is just amazing. So, you think of an S, and so an S would be Joe Biden. He's an S. Very supportive, very stable, very steady. Pretty much, they can be wishy-washy on their answers. They really aren't direct. They really just don't care either way. They just they're more reserved, but they're people-oriented. So they're, think of social services. People that work in social services would be that way. So, and like I said, with a C person is a CPA. They want the numbers, the tasks, they're reserved and task-oriented. Excuse me. And they're going to put them in their little box, in their little cave, and you're going to get the most out of those people. They are awesome. So interestingly, when we did your assessment, and I remember you're like, they want me to do this, they want me to do that, and it was a to-do list, and I'm like, oh, just eliminate that out of your life, because as a high I, to-do lists are like, are you kidding me? Things I have to get done. Not things I see the benefit in immediately. That's something that doesn't work for you. So knowing your own, communication styles and the way you process and work is so beneficial, because you can find what doesn't align with you and why that's not working for you in your business or in your personal life.
So, I mean, I love this idea of identifying first something very simple, and you mentioned it. Are you outgoing? Or are you more reserved, for example? And for all of our viewers out there who are watching right now, I want you to type in the comments right now. Are you outgoing or are you reserved?
Yeah.
So I'm reserved. Not kidding. I'm outgoing. She's so outgoing, right? So if I'm an outgoing person, how will the way I communicate to another person who's outgoing differ from the way I'm going to communicate to somebody who's more reserved? What would be a concrete tip that you're going to apply? Because I'm sure it might be easier it might be easy for most of us to identify whether the person we're talking to is outgoing or reserved, right? We kind of have an idea of that, right? So if we've assessed that the person is outgoing like me or reserved, which is the opposite of me, what would be a good way to communicate to them?
That's a great question. So the best way is that, because we do have all four characteristics in us innately, the best way is to lower your voice, speak a little bit slower, speak a little bit slower, softer, and just and take that time to lower your energy, so that and they will raise their energy to meet you there. So it actually allows them to step up and come out of their shell and be like, oh, okay, this person gets me. Because if you're really reserved, people are there. It's going to take them longer to warm up to someone who is very vibrant and full of energy. And we want to touch all lives. We want to communicate with all people. So the easiest thing is, hey, how's it going? Instead of like, oh my gosh, it's such a great day. Don't you love this? Are you just fired up? And they're like, no, I'm not. Thank you. So you just go, hey, how's it going? It's a beautiful day. Are you enjoying it? So you're just changing that tonality, and that level of energy that you're putting out will help them come out of it, and it will create a bridge for you to start a conversation with.
I mean, I love how powerful this statement is, Kellie, where we said that it's not really about the words that you say, but the energy that you put out. So one interesting thing is that we're talking about communication right now, but then we're entering into the field of energy as opposed to just simply communicating a word or a concept. We're communicating energy. And I love the idea where you meet the person at their level rather than making the person go to your level.
Right.
For example, an outgoing person like me, I might suddenly go into a room, meet somebody for the first time, and really be super high volume, high energy. But then I have the burden of lowering my energy if I want to be received well, if I want to be able to communicate well. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a gradual meeting of energy. So the person who is more reserved, who starts off with a more reserved energy, will also elevate a little bit, not to the level of me, but we're going to meet halfway. And it flips. I guess it's correct to assume it flips the opposite way. Like if I'm a reserved person, I'll start off with a low energy, but then a person who's high energy will also bring down their energy to meet with me. Is that something that happens instinctively?
It doesn't. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen instinctively, which is why we see so much conflict in communication. Because, the comment you made is that it's a burden, and I look at it as a gift, because when we're aware of who we are and where our energy flows, and what we can communicate, we can adjust and adapt to bring people to our level or to come down to their level, which is where the connection really happens. And it won't happen for people who are completely unaware, and we've all met them. And I'll tell you, the hardest ones to get to do that with is D's, because they are so in their zone, and they're so direct, and they're so like, just get it done. And they are only 10%. They're only 10% of humans as in a D. And then you have your I quadrant, which is 35 to 40%, and your S's are 35 to 45%. And then the rest kind of falls in the C category. Now we all have a little bit of each, but that's the overall picture of it. So it's a gift to be able to see someone where they're at and communicate with them in that place. Think about a conflict you've had in your personal life, and you realize that you're like going at it. You're this. I'm right. This is the way it's going to go. And if you can come down and say like, wow, this C or this S person is just withdrawing from me, and you can recognize that, and you can go, okay, wait a minute, I need to just check in here for a second, and lower to that and communicate with them and be like, you know what, let's just take a breath and regroup, and give them that space and that energy. It's going to repair the relationship faster than it's going to destroy it, because it's a gift of energy that you're giving them. And I'm not talking ethereal energy of like, oh, the cosmos, universe, all that kind of stuff. We all have energy in us. We felt it when we get zapped, when we turn off the light switch on the wall. That's energy. And we all have it. It's like why our hair stands up in the morning, because it's all that static energy. So it's a beautiful thing. And communication is mostly body language. So you see, I talk a lot with my hands. People go like, oh, well, you have a Latin background. Yes, I do have a Latin background. But I know that communication is done through our hands, through our face, through our eyes, through our body. And those things are important to be able to convey. So if I'm vibrant and I'm like alive, and then there's times where I'm like, I sit back and I can be very quiet, very reserved, and help that person come out of their shell and feel a connection or build a rapport that's going to bridge our communication gap.
I love that. So this idea of really looking at communication as beyond words, but being a lot of nonverbals, and more specifically being more energy oriented, right? It's something that it seems like it's such a basic thing, but many people struggle with it. So my question for you, because we always want to become practical here in Unapologetic, right?
Yeah.
What would be then a tip, one concrete take home tip that people can get from our little conversation today about communicating better? What would be one tip that you'd gift them with?
The best tip I can give to you is to meet the person where they're at.
Meet the person where they're at. I
Yeah.
love.
So you're gonna see where they're at when you're communicating. If you're you're opening and you're really intent and you're reading it with your eyes, not just their verbal communication, but their nonverbal communication. Because like we said, we speak more with our bodies. Meet them where they're at. If they're intense, you can raise your intensity. If they're excited, you can raise your level of excitement. And then you can slowly go back to your natural state. And that's going to help them adjust to your natural state. Now that you've all been made aware of this information, you can use it. And what I believe and what I like to say is once we become aware of where we're at, then we hold the responsibility of how the communication goes, because now we have this knowledge. It's up to us to put it into action.
Mm.
So
So
it's interesting
we
you
also need
mentioned.
to be aware where we're at. So it's two senses of awareness. You have to be aware of where you're at personally,
Yes.
and where the other person is at.
Yeah.
And is it therefore correct to say that majority of miscommunication problems happen because of either a lack of awareness of where we're at, or a lack of awareness of where the other person is at, or both?
Both.
We're unaware of both.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about how many people you've spoken with, and you're like, dude, why did you say that? You're like, you are so unaware of the effect around you. And absolutely, if we're not aware of where we're at and what our communication style is, we can hurt people. We can end negotiations. We can sever contracts. Like I said, Donald Trump is a beautiful example of that. His Twitter posts, and whether you agree with him or don't agree with him, his policies, whatever, really doesn't matter. What it's a perfect example though. You look at his Twitter posts, and it's like completely unaware of the effect on the greater people out there. And then so anytime you're unaware, then you're creating a chasm instead of building a bridge.
So awareness is key, right?
Absolutely.
I think it's perfect that we're ending with this particular statement, because from what I heard, you have these amazing, amazing courses that can help people become more aware of how they communicate. And guys, I got a taste of that because
Yeah.
I had a special session with Kellie on my DISC assessment. And one of the things that blew my mind was precisely why certain interactions were stressing me out more than others. And I was like trying to wonder and trying to figure out, why is this interaction stressing me out?
Yeah.
She opened the door and made me realize, okay, so this interaction is stressing you out because you're not aware of where the other person is coming from. And at the same time, you're being you're being very conscious about where you're coming from. But then if you're the type of person who's more energetic, look for somebody who can balance that energy. So that's a very, very important thing. And Kellie has some programs that I'd love for you to talk about that we're offering here in Unapologetic. So
yeah. So I put up a couple offers that I would love to extend to you. So that one, the one that's up right now, is a special. It's a 1 hour single standard adult 30-page assessment, and the 30 pages is it's very informative. There's one, and it will give you an outline of how you function, where you fall in your communication styles, not only in your work environment, but also in your natural state. And then you can work to learn to balance those. And you can also see, which is what we did with Francis, which was so cool, is you can see okay, this is an area that is not a strength for me. And so I need to I can either learn to adjust to that, or I can learn that that's just not going to fit in my work environment. And I'm going to hand that off to someone else. And that's a beautiful gift because it lowers your stress level. It lowers that I should be able to do this. And none of us need any more shoulds in our lives, for sure. And so this one is 1 hour, and then this second one, the special two, is 2 standard adult assessments with an integrator. So the person who made the comment, like me and my wife, this would be the one I would suggest for
His
you.
name is Paul, by the way. So his name is Paul.
Oh, Paul, wonderful.
Yeah. So I saw it on the chat room right now. His name is Paul. So he's a good friend of mine. So
excellent. So Paul, the beautiful gift of this is that I will pull both your wife's and your assessment and then integrate them. So there's a tool I have that integrates the 2 assessments, and it gives you literally a line by line on communication, where you struggle, how you can communicate best, and some ideas, and then we can go over that and develop some words and patterns that will create unity versus separation.
So for those of our viewers out there, Kellie did this for me, not with my spouse, but with my colleague, just to make sure that we see whether we are compatible as well, and we can discover areas where we can improve our communication so that our collaboration becomes much, much better. So it never dawned on me that this can also be used for married couples. So for all of you married couples out there, you better check this out as well.
It can also be for couples, but it can also be for a child. So if you're having issues with one of your children communicate at a different level. So there's also a parenting one that we can do that actually integrates a child and a parent. And that is like, because that's just awesome. I mean, all of a sudden you go, oh, well, I'm saying this and they're hearing like, this. And so it allows you to really mesh the two, and not only then you feel heard, and we all want to feel heard, and they feel seen and heard. And that's a beautiful gift to give anyone, is to feel seen and heard.
So you have a fan there. I've seen this that too, and have it with my husband. Very eye-opening.
That's exciting. Yeah, that's awesome.
So we have another, and so people, you gotta give permission to StreamYard to see your name so we know who you are. But there's another person. Yes, that is awesome too.
Yeah, that is great.
So I love this product. I love this 2 standard adult assessment product. I think this is an amazing, amazing gift. Okay, you had another one, right?
I did, because I do a lot of business coaching and business strategy. And one of the things that I see is people not understanding how they function in their business, which is what we were kind of focusing on with Francis. And they're like, why does that stress me out? How come I can't get this reaction from this person? How come this person is not able to hear what I'm asking them to do? Or they're doing this, or they're constantly coming back to me. And so when you do that standard assessment, and then you look at it on a business perspective, and see how it evaluates, like when you evaluate your brand, and we all have a brand that like identifies who we are. Is that brand consistent with my personality? Is that brand consistent with who I am innately? And that's a beautiful, it's with my business partner, Jenny, and who Francis and I work together with, and she's just an incredible gift. And so it's the overall picture of you in your business and the function. Now, I will tell you this, 1 hour is not going to give you all your answers, but it's going to give you a start to getting those answers, and hopefully give you some insight into your communication style, and some concrete tips on how you can go back and really implement some changes in your business, your personal life, and improve communication, which we all want better communication, because that improves our lives, and our lives are centered around communication and people and love and those things. And that's the beautiful gift of this.
So that 1 hour is actually very, very important, because I think the first step is something that a lot of people fail to do. So they fail to achieve great stuff because they fail to take that 1 hour. So you guys, you have an opportunity. Kellie has 3 specials for you. I'm going to be posting the links on the chat box as well, so you can click on them and you can join up. You can join up any of these programs. I would strongly suggest, if you're working with somebody, you're in a relationship with somebody, go take the 2 standard adult assessment things, because it was super mind-blowing for me. It's like one of the most mind-blowing things that I've gone through, right? So thank you very much, Kellie, for spending this time with us. So before we go, I do have a request for you guys. So my request is also join the Unapologetics group if you've not joined our group. So Jenny and I are building this group, this community. We give a lot of content here. Follow me as well on Instagram at Francis Mir, and on LinkedIn at Francis Miranda. So Jenny, Kellie, before we end today, my question for you is, what is your final tip, your final happy holiday Christmas gift for our viewers here? What's the one tip that you want them to take home as a result of this conversation?
The one thing I would say is that how you are uniquely is you're unique and you're beautiful and you're special and you're and who you are in your essence, and that needs to be conveyed in a way that all people can receive it. And wouldn't the world be a better place if we can receive everyone and see where they're at and meet them where they're at and bridge these communication gaps and create more of a unity in our lives and less disharmony. And I will also give you one more tip. This works with animals as well. If you watch animals, which is funny because you said, oh, she's equestrian. I studied equine psychology for a long time, and one of the great things was meeting them
Are
where they're
you a
at.
horse whisperer?
I am.
Oh, amazing. I've never met one, so now I've met one.
I trained for many years. I have 7. I'm pointing out here because I can see them all in the pasture right here. I have 7, and meeting someone, an animal, or anything where they're at allows that energetic connection and allows that communication, and it opens up our lives. It opens up our lives. It opens up our world, and it just is the greatest gift you can give yourself and those around you and those you love.
So I think, for me, my main takeaway from our conversation today, which I'm very grateful for, is you got to meet people where they are. I think that's the priceless thing that I took away from this conversation. So on behalf of all of us here in Unapologetics, we do want to thank you, Kellie. Thank you very much. Guys, let's give Kellie a warm round of applause. Thank you very much for gracing our space and gracing us with your amazing insights today. So thank you very much, Kellie. And as always, we'll see you soon. Thank you, Kellie.
Bye, Hen.